So today's big day in Brazil. The first ever investment bank has gone public. This is BTG Pactual, run by Andre Esteves. BTG, otherwise known as Better Than Goldman down in Brazil, is up about 1%. They raised $2 billion. Raul, you wrote about this. Looks like a blowout deal in one respect. I mean, it wasn't a huge pricing relative to the price and the range, but it was, he got away with a $14 billion valuation for the bank.
It was a huge debut for Esteves. I think it was heavily anticipated because in Brazil, obviously, this is seen as the opening for new IPOs in the market.
Right.
But then he will probably end up leading and running. So it's a nice little ad for his business too, in that sense. But he's really done unbelievably. I mean, he bought this thing he sold it to UBS, bought it back for $2.5 billion a few years ago. Now it's worth $15 billion. I mean, I guess the question is really whether or not the pricing and the valuation, whether there's anything left for public shareholders. I mean, he got some investors in, a who's who of sort of grandees.
Well, so far investors have been very cautious. As we see, the stock, the units now are up barely.
That's right. It's an
1%.
important distinction. It's one of four classes of stock. When this one, of course,
Several
the one
classes.
that the public shareholders get probably has the weakest governance.
Four classes to shareholders. Then there's the C shares, which are the golden shares for Esteves and his lieutenants to keep control of the bank. So it's important to see that investors have been cautious, not only in the pricing. The pricing came in the mid-range, but also they weren't able to sell all the units they expected to sell.
Right.
And that may have something, I mean, we don't know for sure, it may have something to do with this thing that came out a week or two ago for the Italian stock market regulator came out and hit him with some insider trading fines, allegations. That
has something to do with it, but also one of the issues that is in the forefront of investors is the fact that some of their revenues come from trading, and that tends to be very volatile. And BTG Pactual has seen years where the revenues from trading tank.
But I mean, if you want to play Brazil and you want to play an emerging capital market, one where there is, the stock market, as you say, where there are going to be other offerings, where you have, capital flows, all these things, and the regionalization of Latin America. So the idea that, one of the things he's doing is sort of wrapping up brokers and brokerages and opening in other parts of the region so that you can capitalize on those capital flows. That's pretty interesting. That's got to be part of why people are interested.
There is definitely room for growth. The Andean region, as you know, their capital markets have been sort of consolidating.
This is like Colombia, Peru, and Chile have all kind of joined together the stock market.
So there is definitely a room for growth in, not only in their fee-based business, but also in trading. So,
but I would say at 3 times book. Let's put it in context. Goldman is trading below book value. These guys are trading at 3 times book, which is, of course,
it's almost triple what
it's a reflection of the high returns on equity that they have. But I mean, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room unless
they're not. I mean, it would be surprising if they got to 4 or 5 times book.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll be back with more breaking views tomorrow.